The first class reading and writing room on Titanic was located on A deck, just behind the grand staircase off a corridor leading to the first class lounge. The room was beautifully decorated in the late Georgian style and designed with the ladies' use in mind. The room benefited from the same raised height ceiling as the lounge next door and was a very spacious and tall, elegant room. The room had large windows looking out onto the promenade deck, and at the top of the windows extending up to the boat deck above, decorated with white panels and ornamental mouldings, mahogany and silk furniture, and a plush pink carpet. An electric fireplace in the centre with a carved mantelpiece. Above the fireplace was an Adam-style gilt-frame oval mirror and a carriage clock. To the side was a more private alcove area screened with a decorative arch. The reading and writing room wasn't exactly for reading and writing, however you definitely could do that if you so wanted. It's actually a ladies' drawing room, keeping with social etiquette of the time. In 1912, after dinner, the gentlemen would tend to head up to the smoke room. The women were expected to withdraw themselves to a drawing room. On Titanic, the reading and writing room was designed for this exact etiquette situation. This room wasn't dedicated just for the women. Men could use this room if they wanted to. Don't be fooled by the pink. Pink wasn't considered a feminine colour until the 1940s. It was supposed to be a dedicated room for the ladies at night. Through the day, passengers could use this room as a quiet place to read, write home to family and friends, or write telegrams. Books were provided for passengers next door in the lounge, as well as a postbox for mail. During the evenings, women could use this room to relax, play parlour games, and chat to other passengers while sipping a few beverages before retiring back to their cabins. However, it's been said that this room was vastly underused on both Titanic and her sister Olympic. Thomas Andrews, the chief designer, even noted the underuse of the room and proposed the idea of converting the alcove area into more first-class cabins. This was proposed to Bruce Ismay on the maiden voyage of Titanic. This was later achieved on Olympic as her reading and writing room was reduced in size to make way for new cabins. On Britannic, the third in the trio, she was specifically designed with a reduced reading and writing room. The room is beautiful. I've drawn the room many times and the details are astounding. Howland and Wolff definitely didn't fail in producing something magnificent with the decoration. So what's the problem? Why was this room such a failure? One of the biggest problems was what women were actually doing after dinner. With the dining room on board Titanic being so big, it could seat all first-class passengers in one sitting. So instead of withdrawing, most passengers would remain at their dining tables or would proceed to the reception room next door, where the ship's musicians would perform after-dinner concerts. The reception room was so popular after dinner that it was extended on Titanic and later on Olympic. More chairs were added on Titanic, as many passengers had no place to sit and often sat on the steps of the grand staircase aboard Olympic. When the gentlemen decided to head up to the smoke room on A deck, many of the ladies preferred to relax in the lounge. There was a very good reason for this. The lounge was central on the ship and close to the smoke room for when the gentlemen returned. The lounge was also much bigger than the reading and writing room and had a much cosy atmosphere. The lounge had its own bar, a large bookcase and a postbox, which the reading and writing room did not have. To get a refreshment in the reading and writing room, you'd have to call a steward using the call bell, which could have taken some time. It was just so much more convenient to use the lounge and call over a passing steward. If you were writing a postcard or letter, you'd also have to go to the lounge anyway to mail it, so it was just easier to write the letter in the lounge. On Olympic, the reading and writing room was advertised as having unlimited sea views and flooded with natural light. On Titanic, however, the promenade outside was enclosed, interrupting the sea views and impeding unnatural light entering the room. On rendering this room, I realised how much light was actually lost, especially in the back half of the room. This would have meant that the electric lights probably would have been on most of the time. On an evening, I figured that the opposite would have happened. The room was likely way too bright. The room had 28 lights in its walls and ceilings, as well as the exterior promenade lights shining through the windows. And with the room being white, it would have reflected a lot of this light around the room. From outside on the promenade, other passengers could very clearly peer in, which would have taken away from its atmosphere and would have not as felt as cosy or as private as maybe the lounge. Obviously certain lights could have been turned off, but it wouldn't have improved much of the ambience. Another possibility is the room was just unnoticed, The doorway was just small and off a corridor leading to the lounge. The door was particularly nondescript and blended into the panelling of the corridor. Passengers could easily walk past it unnoticed or overlooked it as maybe a crew door. Also, a social aspect that could have contributed. If some ladies wanted to chat or have a few after dinner drinks, then they might have felt rude to use the reading and writing room if a few passengers were using it as a quiet space. An assumption that could have seen certain passengers avoid it altogether, especially as the Edwardians were so socially conceited. So with location, lack of facilities and services, lighting and decoration, as well as social attitudes and preferences, it all contributed to the room's downfall. Which is such a shame, as it's definitely one of my favourite public rooms on board. And if it was designed differently or in another location, then I think it would have been much more popular. It's also worth mentioning that the room wasn't completely removed on Olympic and was still installed on Britannic. Therefore, it still had significance, just not used as much as original intention and as much as the designers had predicted. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you for watching my very first YouTube video. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook.